Man, who's had a great week? No one. Not one person had a great week in church. Come on, who had a great week? That's awesome. You guys are so quiet this morning. It's so weird. Is it because we're talking about marriage? Is that what's going on? Everyone's like, oh, I don't know about this. This is weird. That's cool. Hey, we're reading from Mark this morning. Would you stand to your feet with me as we read the Word of God? I promise it's a short one this morning. We're reading from Mark 10:9 from the NIV. And this is what it says. It says, "Therefore, what God has joined together, let no one separate." That's it. Grab a seat. And then no, I'm kidding. Don't. So I'm curious, right? Who here believes they have a perfect marriage? Nice, we've got a couple of people. Cool, that's cool. What about perfect relationships with your friends? Does anyone have like a perfect relationship with their friend? I think it's perfect. Yep, one perfect relationship. That's awesome. Well, the good news is no matter how perfect you think it is, it can always get better, right? I know that for me, that is definitely a thing. And I love Jackie. She's incredible. But both of us can still grow so much. So the truth is that, no matter how long we've been married, no matter how you go through the ups and the downs, one thing is for sure, and that's wherever you're at, it can still get better. So we're looking at this series. It's a book called The Happy Marriage by Pastor Darren Chapman. Now, he's a pastor over at C3 Newcastle in New South Wales. But this isn't just for marriages either. If you're here, if you missed last week, and maybe this is your first week of the Happy Marriage book, it's not just for marriages. This is such a great series for anyone who has a relationship with anything, with anyone, with a friend. That's right, Liv, anything. Absolutely. So look, it can be used in so many places. And if you one day you might get married, bank it for later. This is such a great series. But hey, what's the point, right? So today we're studying from the book, and the point is to build intimacy in our relationships. That's the goal, right? So Darren believes that there's three main areas to do this. And the first area, last week we tackled, was connection. And Pastor David gave us a really great word on connection. That was so good. I love that. If you haven't had a chance to check it out, make sure you jump online and watch it on our website. Pastor David is our senior pastor. He's over in Coffs Harbour in New South Wales. And he brought us an incredible word on connection. And our focus this week is on unity. So it's about unity. And then next week, we're going to be looking at vision. So they're the three things that he believed come together to create intimacy. So this week's unity, which is important because it challenges you to grow together at the same time. That's the important thing, is growing together as a couple, right? So the question is, what can we do to have a better sense of unity in our relationships? And how do we get on the same page in our relationships, right? So Proverbs 19:8 says, "The one who gets wisdom loves life. The one who cherishes understanding will soon prosper." And I think, particularly in our marriages, it's great to get as much wisdom as we possibly can, isn't it? So that's what we're going to be soaking up today. So unity is an agreement and it's understanding, isn't it? It's understanding that you're on the same direction and on the same path. So it's finding a place of agreement with your spouse, and that's essential. That's so essential. It establishes a decision. That means you can both move forward together, which then gives you momentum and helps you grow in unity again. It's like a snowball effect, right? And it doesn't mean it's a perfect solution for either one of you either. What it does mean is that you both come to a position of agreeing on the same thing, even if it compromises both sides a bit, right? Because unity is far more important than having your way. I think that's a key thing, and I think that's something that I know I wish that we knew going into marriage better, is that, it's way more important to have unity than it is to have it your way. Isn't that right? And when we both value unity in our relationship and we make it a goal as a focus, then it enables our relationships to become a lot stronger and a lot more fulfilling. So the first thing that Pastor Darren talks about in the book, in the unity section that is, on a practical level, is expectations. And that's what we're going to be tackling today. Now, unity is a big chapter. There's a lot of content in it, so we're only getting a slither. So if you get the chance, grab the book. There's a paper version, there's an audio version of it. It is a phenomenal book. It is a short read. It's made for guys like me who don't like reading a lot. And there's an audio version. I love the audio version. I think the audio version all up is about 4 hours from cover to cover. So it's pretty quick in the way books. But yeah, today we're going to be unpacking expectations, right? So my first point is 100% of everything you experience together in your marriage is filtered through your expectations. 100% of everything you experience together in your marriage is filtered through your expectations. Now that makes that so important, doesn't it? Because everything in your relationship is being seen through this lens. It's like if you buy a new lens for a camera, right? Depending how much money you spend, depends on the picture quality you get, yeah? So we want to have the best possible lens that we can have for our relationship. But the thing is, from the moment that you started dating, you brought expectations into your relationship. From the moment you started, that's the thing. And more often than not, I know for me, I find when I have a problem with something that Jackie might do, it's actually not her problem. It's actually me, and it's an internal problem with me because of my expectations of the situation. And that is so common. And I don't know if anyone else can relate to that, and it's so common for me. I'm like, why did this happen? Why is that going like that? Oh, actually, that's a me problem. Yeah. Expectations tend to form themselves automatically. And the thing is, you may not have even thought about them consciously, right? But suddenly you've got this expectation about something. And you kind of sit there going, well, when did I come up with that? When was that where I set that benchmark, right? But I guarantee subconsciously they're there and they run really, really deep. So the question is, if they're there, how do we manage and communicate expectations? Because this is one of those things that gets easier the more you do it, right? But learning to communicate what your expectations are with your spouse, with your partner, with your friend, that's really, really important. And that's what Darren talks about in this section of the book. He really unpacks this in a lot of detail. The thing is, if you have that knowledge of how to communicate around that, then you've got the knowledge about how to talk about finances. Maybe it's about your sex life. Maybe it's about when the kids get in trouble in school, how you actually communicate with each other, of how each other handles that situation. But it also helps you find a new level of depth as well in your relationship. So my second point is expectations aren't trivial. They relate to how you feel about yourself, your time, your parenting, etc. It's all connected. It's all connected. It's not just a separate thing. Actually, everything else in your life influences your expectations as well. So talking constructively about your expectations creates a place of intimacy. And it creates vulnerability and openness in your relationship. And what it does is give your spouse permission to open up on a similar level. So someone's got to be the first person, right? Someone's got to start that. And then it gives the other person the opportunity to open up on that level too. It's also really important to consciously check yourself when you feel let down by the other person, by what you're expecting from them. And this is what I'm learning to do more and more, is go, hang on, is this a problem with me? And this is what Darren unpacks as well. He says, you have to ask yourself, was it really their fault, or was it my expectation of them that was unreasonable? Because that's so important. If you're like me, you'll probably find more often than not it's a you problem. To navigate expectations well, we really need to work on how we communicate, how we manage them, and how we adjust them. And we also need to work out meeting our spouse's expectations of us. Because how do we then meet their expectations? There's the other side of it as well. And how do we deal with any unmet expectations? It's so important to know how to discuss expectations. So Darren's got a few tips for this, right? Darren's tips for discussing expectations. When opening up the topic, you don't want to be ambiguous or complicated. You want to be clear and you want to be concise. Hey, do you mind if we just chat about expectations about insert topic here? I want to just make sure we're on the same page about this. It might be a little awkward at first, but it'll get easier the more you do it. You've got to be clear, you've got to be upfront, and remember to frame the conversation well. You might not get all the way through the first conversation, but it'll be slow, and progress is the key there. He also says that in these conversations, there's 4 things that you really want to identify. The first thing is how I'm feeling or thinking about the thing, whatever it might be. The second thing is how my spouse affects the thing right now. The third thing is how I want my spouse to affect the thing. And the fourth is what my spouse thinks about my expectations. I'll give you a little example here. So Jackie hates cleaning the kitchen. She does. She hates cleaning the kitchen. She'll tell you that she hates it. So we do our best to have Mondays off together. That's kind of like our day off at home. We try wherever we can to be at home on that day and just chill out, just have a Sabbath day, just a relaxing day. But I find it quite therapeutic to clean the kitchen, right? That's like my starting point on a Monday morning. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to clean the kitchen, and that'll be awesome because then it's nice and clean, it's sorted, it's all good. Then we can just relax and chill out. That doesn't work so well for Jackie because she's home all week doing that almost every day. So that's a whole lot of work for her. That's almost a full-time job. Whereas for me, I'm just like, yeah, that's awesome. It's something separate from work. I can just do that, plod along, do my thing. That's all good. But early on when I started to do this, I think Jackie started to take a bit of offense to it. And the reason for that was because she thought that I was doing it because it wasn't done. So she felt guilty because of that. So you can imagine that would have caused a bit of tension there in that space. Because she's thinking I'm picking up the slack because she's not had a chance to get to it. Which is totally not the case at all. It's actually just that I enjoy doing that as my wind down. And the other half of it is I love to do it as a gift as well. So that's awesome. Because then I feel like we can spend some time together without having to worry about it or thinking about it for the rest of the day off. But it was a point of tension for a little while because I would clean and then Jackie would seem to get maybe a little bit angry about it. And then we would start to clean the kitchen and help, and I would sense the anger, so I would go and sit down somewhere else, and then she would be cleaning, and then it's all flipped on its head and just backwards, and just absolute fail, right? Absolute fail. And what it came down to was that neither of us had communicated our expectations around it. Neither of us had actually talked about that or communicated that, right? So it wasn't until we actually discussed the expectations of this that we actually got through it. Once I understood that she didn't want to do it on a Monday, and she completely understood that I like doing it, it made the expectations for each other way easier. It made so much more sense. And now more often than not, I try and clean the kitchen on a Monday. Jackie goes and chills out and relaxes, and then we catch up once that's done. That's awesome. The more you communicate your expectations to each other, the smoother your relationship will be and the stronger it will be. And it's funny how long we let it go, isn't it? Like some of those little things, it's funny how long we just let it happen and stew and we forget about it. And then suddenly one day you just click and go, hang on, if we just talk about this, like that's a really easy fix. It's kind of an easy fix, right? Proverbs 15:2, the Message version says, knowledge flows like spring water from the wise. Fools are leaky faucets dripping nonsense. Don't be a leaky tap. Don't be a leaky tap. Don't drip in anger. That's not good. These conversations are so helpful for strengthening your connection and understanding your spouse in ways that they actually appreciate. So what's next? Once you've opened up the communication and understood each other more and you're on the same page regarding the expectations, you can get on with loving each other through them. And that's the key. That's what Pastor Darren says. And that's my third point. This is the key. Love. Love is the key. And this is not about being a reluctant participant either in this. I want my spouse to feel loved and experience love. That's what we have to do. We have to be there to make their life better. I want to be there to make my spouse's life better in ways that she'll appreciate and in ways that she'll enjoy. Point 4, Pastor Darren says this, meeting expectation looks like love, but it will feel like work. It will feel like work. Even though it looks like love, it'll feel like work. It'll feel like work to get up off your recliner and go take the rubbish out while the game's on, guys. That's going to feel like work. But it's going to mean all the difference. It might feel like work to find a gift that will really show her you love her. It might be hard for you, but the work is worth it. And the thing is, love is a verb. It's actually an action. It's not just an emotion, it's actually a physical action. We love our spouse by not only meeting, but hopefully exceeding their expectations. That's got to be the goal, right? And meeting my spouse's expectations in love is a great way to help us to learn to love selflessly, sacrificially even, regardless of my feelings. Because the other thing it will do is it will help you set a culture in your house. It will help you set a culture in your home that then flows onto your kids, flows onto everyone around you. This culture gets then ingrained in your DNA, in your family's DNA. And it's not easy. It's hard to meet expectations when sometimes maybe you don't feel loved yourself. But you've got to start somewhere. And the growth that we step into when we move beyond our feelings and love, no matter what, is massive. And it can act as a reset in our relationship as well. Because if you make that first step, that's like flipping the circuit breaker. It's when I step into this space that for me, I know I'm confronted by how conditional my outgoing love can be as well. And how it seems to be limited and very dependent on how I'm feeling at the time too. So here's the challenge, friends. It comes down to loving unconditionally, doesn't it? It starts with communicating our expectations. So a few weeks ago, when we did the Winning Your War in Your Mind series, we did a thought audit. So what I want to do today is something a little different. I want to do what's called a unity audit. And this comes directly out of the book as well. There's actually some resources online you can grab for this. If you want to do these questions with your spouse separately, feel free. But we're going to go through them right now. So I'd love you to pull out your phones, or if you're old school, grab your paper and a pen. And we're going to do a little unity audit for ourselves. So the first one, question 1, is what areas of your life together do you feel are very smooth and doing well? Be specific if you can. I'm going to give you 30 or so seconds to jot some stuff down here. So what areas of your life together do you feel are very smooth and are doing well? Be as specific as you can with that. Almost need like elevator music. All right, question 2. If you could instantly help your spouse see your perspective on something, what would it be and why? It's going to be interesting to compare notes after this. If you could instantly help your spouse see your perspective on something, what would it be and why? All right, question 3. On a scale of 1 to 5, how much do you feel on the same page as your spouse about A, money, budget, bills, and spending? Just jot down a number. You can just write A, 1 or 3 or 5. Sex. Could be frequency, type, etc. That's a real question. It's in the book. Hobbies and sport. Family and friends. Household chores. The in-laws. Whoa, that got a couple of interesting sounds. And careers and holidays. Just jot down 1 to 5 for all of those. Cool. Question 4A. Are you comfortable communicating your expectations with your spouse? Are you comfortable communicating your expectations with your spouse? Notice there's no. It's only a yes or not yet. Because we're moving forward, right? Four B. Are you okay with your spouse challenging one of your expectations? Yes or not yet? For C. There's a couple more. Sorry, do we need more time? Are we good? No? Cool. All right. 4C. Why do you want to meet your spouse's expectations? What's your reason for that? Number 5. How do you both process? Are you an internal processor or an external processor? And what about your spouse? Internal or external? And I'm pretty sure most people are going to know this straight away. But it's actually good to jot it down and just go, oh, of course. All right, question 6. We're almost there. How well can you meet your spouse's expectations when you don't feel like it or aren't feeling loved? 0 to 10. How well can you meet your spouse's expectations when you don't feel like it or you're not feeling loved? And if you want a bonus question that's not on the screen there is, how does this affect how you get on the same page? Just something to think about there as well. Question 7. What matters more to you than to your spouse? It can be big things, it can be small things. What matters more to you than to your spouse? And last question, question 8. What improvements would you like to make to your disagreement style? And this is a really good one to discuss together later on. The good news is I've given you a platform to start asking these questions. So it's not as awkward as it could be, right? That's awesome. Maybe we'll send out the link to these questions as well a bit later on the church chat. So if anyone wants to download them and have a look, because there's actually a survey section like this for all 3 of the sections as well in the book. So it's really interesting to go through. Awesome. But hey, at the end of the day, look, we've got to take responsibility for our part, right? In our relationships. We've got to take the first step forward for our spouses, and we've got to realize that it's in love for them. So I really encourage you to get the book if you can. It is a phenomenal book, and there is so much content in it. I mean, in the Sundays that we've had, the 3 Sundays that we will have by the end of next week, we've only scraped the surface of it. There is so much great content in there. Would you stand with me this morning? So the thing is, it's always so much better when you're working on your relationship to do it with Jesus. And if you haven't had the opportunity to bring Jesus into your life, maybe you've been coming to church for a little while, maybe this is your first time back in church, maybe you've been away from God for a while. I want to give you an opportunity this morning to come back to Him. So we're going to say a prayer together this morning for the benefit of anyone who's never said it before. And if you do pray this for the first time, and this is your opportunity to go, you know what, I'm going to make a stand for this. I want to give my life away to Jesus to lead my life. And if that's you, then we really want to help you on this journey. That's what we're here for. So if you do pray this for the first time, please come and find us. Find someone you see on stage. We really want to help you on the next stage. And that goes for you guys online as well. So let's say this prayer together. I believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God and the Savior of the world. I believe He died and rose again to forgive my sin and give me life. I receive your grace by faith. Come into my life. Make me new. I'll follow you. Hey, can we have a huge round of applause for anyone that may have just prayed that for the very first time? If that's you, we're so excited to help you on this next stage of your journey. Please do come and find someone. We'd love to chat with you and help you on that journey. Hey, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a thing from our channel.
And share with a friend, because you never know who you're going to bless.
You can also catch us live every Sunday morning at 9:30 a.m. Australian Western Standard Time. We'd love to see you there.